Chase Elliott throws a late block on Corey LaJoie to secure the win, and Ross Chastain just continues to make enemies. If I'm him, I'm avoiding my local Food Lion for a couple of weeks. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove Atlanta race review edition. Another super speedway race. I'm getting them all mixed up inside my head. We have a ton to talk about. I'm feeling heated today. One, because my AC is not on. I always actually turn my AC off to film because otherwise the vents make a ton of noise. So fun fact, if I look sweaty in videos, it's because my AC is off and I live in Texas. No, in all seriousness though, I'm heated because of what I just saw on the racetrack. We have a lot to react to. First, this episode, as you can see, is sponsored by my friends at LubeGuard. LubeGuard brings you the original instant torque converter shutter eliminator, LubeGuard Instant Shutter Fix. Instant Shutter Fix is the professional's secret to eliminating shutter and hard shifting fast. It's easy to use and it works with all conventional, synthetic, and low viscosity automatic transmission fluids. You can find LubeGuard Instant Shutter Fix just about anywhere. AutoZone, Napa, CarQuest, O'Reilly, Advance, Pep Boys, AutoZone, I think I said those already, or online of course at Amazon.com. Head to Shutterman.com, link is down in the description below to learn more, or head to LubeGuard.com, that's also down in the description below to see their full line of great products. Thanks to LubeGuard for sponsoring the show. Boy, where do I begin? I'm not kidding, I'm actually physically heated right now. Let's begin with the finish. I want to talk Chase Elliott versus Corey LaJoie, and bear with me here, I hope I don't lose too many of y'all because I got some spicy things to say about Ross Chastain in a few moments. But let's talk about that finish. Chase Elliott, won stage 1, won stage 2, had probably the best car all day long, but he had to battle Corey LaJoie, that's right, the Spire Motorsports number 7 on the final restart. 3 laps to go, LaJoie was actually the control car and actually got out to the lead thanks to a great push from Ross Chastain. But Chase Elliott had a great car, he got a push and was able to get by Corey LaJoie, was able to clear Corey LaJoie, but then as they took the white flag, LaJoie got a huge push from Eric Jones down the front stretch, set up Chase Elliott for a move going into turn 1. LaJoie tried to swing high, Chase Elliott went up to block, perhaps a little late. LaJoie ended up sliding into the outside wall, collected Kurt Busch, a major crash broke out behind the race leaders. Caution came out, race ended under yellow. Chase Elliott was clearly ahead of Ross Chastain. He gets the credit for the win. It's his 3rd win of the season. I'll talk about what this means for the points, the playoffs in just a moment, but let's begin with that final move, the block Chase Elliott put on Corey LaJoie. It was a late block, and Corey LaJoie likely does not hit the wall unless Chase Elliott makes that move. I've seen some comparing it to the move Larson put on Chase Elliott at Auto Club earlier this year. Not quite the same thing, because if we look at that Auto Club incident, Chase Elliott was completely alongside Kyle Larson. He had gotten his whole left front fender next to Kyle Larson's right rear when Larson moved up and put Elliott in the wall. In this case, LaJoie was getting there. He was on Elliott's bumper and was maybe ever so slightly bumping out next to him, but he didn't quite have the position yet. So yes, it was a late block, and Chase Elliott is the reason Corey LaJoie got slid up into the wall and a huge crash broke out. I'm a little frustrated because it would have been great to see Spire Motorsports get a win. Corey LaJoie ran a fantastic race, especially the second half. He wasn't just there all of a sudden. He was there for like the last 150 laps. Corey LaJoie's move was a bit of a Hail Mary, yes, but Chase Elliott's the reason he wrecked. Corey LaJoie, during his post-race interview on USA Network, said it was a, quote, good block by Elliott. And I couldn't really detect sarcasm. Corey LaJoie is naturally a very sarcastic person, so maybe there's a little bit in there, but it was hard to detect. It's annoying that this is what NASCAR culture has become, what driving etiquette has become. A lot of these drivers just don't worry about safety anymore, especially not in the heat of the battle. That's why they're comfortable making these late blocks. A lot of drivers would have made the same move Chase Elliott did, but some wouldn't. Like Denny Hamlin. I don't think Denny Hamlin makes that move. I've used this example before, but like the 2020 Daytona 500, Denny Hamlin won that race by not making a crazy block on the backstretch. He's a veteran driver who's long talked about and advocated for more safety. So there is a cultural difference in the Cup Series. You got 2 young guys going for the win, and no one's gonna give an inch. So I'm not furious with Chase Elliott, but I'm frustrated. And I don't think a move like that should be commended. I'm not gonna put him on full blast for it, but I'm absolutely not gonna praise him for it either. So congrats to Chase Elliott, wins in front of his home crowd, his hometown fans. Did you know that Chase Elliott's from Georgia? He's from a town near Atlanta. Did you know that? There's a siren and everything. A siren? If somehow you didn't know about that until today, USA Network and Rutledge Wood made damn well sure you did. So anyway, congrats to Chase Elliott. I do want to say something positive about Chase Elliott now, because while I didn't love that move, I thought it was borderline at best, a tad dirty at worst. I do want to give Chase Elliott his props. To me, he has emerged now as the clear championship frontrunner. Not clear in the same way like Kyle Larson was the clear frontrunner last year, but I think right now he has nudged himself ahead of the pack. Obviously now he's the only driver this year with 3 wins, so that sets him apart from everyone else, but he's also the points leader, the regular season points leader by a pretty wide margin after today. Remember, he swept the stages. One stage 1, that's 10 points, one stage 2, that's 10 more, and then he wins the race. It was a max points day for Chase Elliott, who already had like I think a 33-point lead coming into the race. So suddenly, almost out of nowhere, Chase Elliott not only leads the regular season standings, but he also has more wins than anyone else. So I don't know how you couldn't call him the championship favorite at this point. Since the off week, he's finished first at Nashville, second at Road America, and first at Atlanta. Dude's on a hot streak right now. This is around the same time where last year Kyle Larson got on a really hot streak and emerged as the clear championship favorite. Maybe this is the beginning of a similar Chase Elliott style run. Just saying. All right, we'll talk about all the top finishers here in a moment, but now I want to pivot to Ross Chastain, who actually finished runner-up, finished second. From a fan's perspective, it's really hard to dislike Ross Chastain. Look, I've been critical of his over-aggressive moves in the past, like even before this year, but his watermelon farmer beginnings, the fact that he scratched and clawed his way in lower tier equipment for many, many years, overachieved, making the playoffs in Xfinity in a JD Motorsports car, always comes across as down-to-earth and humble when talking to reporters, when talking to TV. It's hard not to root for Ross Chastain from a fan's perspective. Even the over-aggressive moves at least makes things exciting. When he's good, he is thrilling to watch. Unfortunately, when he's bad, he makes dumbfounding mistakes sometimes. But from a fan wanting something interesting to cheer for, to watch, it's still hard to dislike Ross Chastain. But there is obviously a huge disconnect between how most fans see Ross Chastain and how nearly every driver in the garage sees Ross Chastain. Chastain has his haters over here for sure, but he has a lot of fans without question. In the garage, he said it himself, he has no friends. Today alone, he was involved in an incident early on where, from my perspective, it looked like Martin Truex Jr. was a little loose on his own. Chastain was running kind of a half lane higher in an awkward spot, and when Truex lifted, Chastain didn't give him a lot of space to catch it. That set off a big wreck, but Chastain was able to continue. Austin Dillon was one of the innocent bystanders that piled into that crash, hit the outside wall very, very hard. Thankfully, he seemed okay, and during his infield care center interview for TV, he took several swipes at Ross Chastain, saying, quote, "Every week, it seems he's part of something." Later in the race, USA Network played a clip from Eric Almirola's radio where someone on the team was really frustrated with Chastain, and someone on the team said, "Chastain better hope he doesn't run into me at a Food Lion or something." Honestly, one of the all-time great NASCAR radio quotes, at least from this year. That was funny. Nobody in the industry is giving Ross Chastain the benefit of the doubt. So a 50-50 incident like the one with Truex, people are going to pile on Ross Chastain. Now, later in the race, this one's just inexcusable. Ross Chastain gets tight and wipes out Denny Hamlin, a guy who Ross Chastain just a few weeks ago also wrecked while running inside the top 5. He literally did the exact same thing just a few weeks later. Remember after Gateway, Ross Chastain was super down on himself. I need to be better. Oh, I can't make that many mistakes. Boy, wasn't that just a lot of empty talk. I don't know how Denny Hamlin didn't just erupt inside that race car. I mean, Ross Chastain, yeah, he just got tight, but you gotta know when to lift. He wouldn't lift, he took Hamlin out, and over the radio, my bad. And in his post-race interview on USA Network, he didn't even bring up the crash once. Now, whoever was doing the interview, I think it was Kim Kuhn or somebody, didn't even ask him about it, so it should have asked him about that, ask him the hard question, but Chastain never brought up, didn't apologize to TV, didn't say anything. It was a completely different tune than the one he sang at Gateway a few weeks ago. So while I've defended Chastain at times in the past, I make no secret, I'm a Ross Chastain fan. He's a very likable guy. The couple times I've talked to him, he's been on the show before. There is no defending what he did on track today. There's really no defending what he did on track at Gateway. And the fact that he's not improving, if anything, he's getting worse as the year goes on, he deserves to be called out for it. Look, when Ross Chastain is good, like I said, he is exciting to watch. He is a joy, a thrill. He makes some great moves. He's run some great races. He has won twice this year. We can't look past that. He's a championship contender. But my goodness, throughout his career, when he's been bad, he's looked lost out there. Like, he's looked all-time bad. Today was terrible. Mainly that second incident with Hamlin. But the fact that he has this many enemies in the garage area should tell you something. This is the point I was trying to make a few weeks ago when Justin Marks was defending him, saying he's not welcome here. Like, no, it's not that he's not welcome in the top 5. He's not welcome because he drives like this. They don't just hate him because, oh, he's a new guy. No, they hate him because he does this. He's completely unpredictable. He's erratic at times. Again, sometimes he's thrilling, great, incredible, all-time, spectacular talent. Other times he's all-time awful. Like today, like Gateway. And I'm sorry, you can get away with some of that when you're running 25th or 30th. You're not going to get away with that when you're in the top 5 every week. On national TV, racing against the big guns with the big budgets who have high expectations for themselves and the drivers around them, you're not going to get away with it. So Ross Chastain's got to clean this up ASAP because he's a menace out there. He's becoming a liability, like tearing up equipment, tearing up a lot of other teams' equipments. Like, if he didn't have any friends before this weekend, he's got like negative friends now. Like Daniel Suarez may not even be his friend now. He's become the villain. And it's lame because from a personality standpoint, he's not the villain whatsoever. He's extremely likable. He's very easy to root for. His journey is inspiring. But on the track, you just can't defend it anymore. He has become the villain. There's still time for him to change, but it's going to take time. And today was not a step in the right direction. All right, God, it is actually hotter in here than usual. It must just be me. I'm radiating energy right now. Here are some of the other top finishers. Austin Cindric comes back to finish 3rd. He had a very up and down day. Started up front, spent a while at the back, made his way towards the front at the end. Eric Jones, I always say he's probably the most underrated super speedway racer. Guess who was there at the end? Giving Corey LaJoie that massive push on the final lap that, kind of made the difference in the race. He gets a top 5. Good for Jones. Unfortunately, he needs a win, but a top 5 still, you got to feel pretty good about that. Ryan Blaney, fast as always at Super Speedways, the top 5, and Daniel Suarez. Feel like he didn't get any coverage today, but he sneaks into 6th at the end. Justin Haley, Eric Almirola, a lot of your usual Super Speedway suspects here in the top 10. Good for those guys. What was that thing Rick Allen let slip during the pace laps that Eric Almirola may not retire at the end of this season? We'd heard those rumors, and I think I even brought him up on the show a few weeks ago, but Almirola also said something recently to the tune of, no, I still think this is going to be my last year, but I guess it's not definite. It sounds like maybe something has changed in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know. We'll be tracking that story over the next few weeks, few months. A couple other guys in the top 10, Cole Custer, Harrison Burton, top 10 for the rookie. That's good. He was up front for a while. He got there on strategy, but then he did a good job of kind of staying there for pretty much the rest of the race. Good for him. Kyle Larson struggled with the handle early. I thought he was out of the race, caught up in one of the big wrecks. I saw him hit the outside wall head on. Not super hard, but I figured it would shake something loose, but he gets a top 15. Sucks that Bubba Wallace wasn't more competitive today. Early on, they had issues with the car he radioed that something felt broke in the rear. Just never competitive, and it just feels like a huge missed opportunity. This has to have been one of the races they had circled to try and make the playoffs. I do want to mention that Corey LaJoie is credited with a 21st place finish. Gosh, that stings. A lot of good cars caught up in wrecks. Tyler Reddick, they had an issue on pit road where he slid through the box, lost some spots. That put him in the danger zone, got caught up in a wreck. He finished, I think, 30th. William Byron finished outside the top 30 despite leading a good portion of laps. In the middle of this race, he was caught up in a crash. Remember, he won at Atlanta in the spring, which is another point. This was the first repeat race of the season. Second time we visited Atlanta this year. I also want to mention Christopher Bell. He finished 19th despite being very competitive in this race. Remember this past week, the news that a couple key crew members of his were swapped out with crew members from Bubba Wallace's team. Bubba's team that struggled with loose wheels more than pretty much any other team this year. Yeah, you remember that news? Yeah, that came into play today. The first race since the swap. To be fair, Christopher Bell made a mistake first. He spun out while running like 6th, but then when pitting to get fresh tires, the team didn't get the left rear on, fell off on pit road. I wasn't listening to TV, I missed it. I don't know if that's going to warrant a suspension because they didn't go out onto the track. It was just there on pit road. I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comments. And no, I don't know if it was a Bubba crew guy that left the wheel loose, but we do know that Christopher Bell got a tire changer and a tire carrier from Bubba's team. So 50-50, it might have been. Bell's team has struggled this year as well, so it could have been one of his OG guys. Who knows? Either way, not looking good over at Toyota as far as pit crews are concerned. Anyway, real quick, before we put this on the Groovy Gauge, let's glance at the point standings now with 7 races to go before the playoffs begin. Keep in mind, these playoff points here in yellow do not include the points they'll get for where they finish in the regular season standings. Like Chase Elliott, if he holds on to the regular season championship, he'll get 15 more points on top of that. Just keep that in mind. But right now, these are the playoff points that everyone for sure will get when the playoffs begin. And you can see still 3 spots available. We didn't get a new winner today. But with 2 road courses, another super speedway, a Pocono, Michigan, New Hampshire left, I'm still confident we'll get 2 more new winners. So the only guy there that I feel safe as far as pointing his way in is probably Ryan Blaney. Truex and especially Bell, they're not safe in my opinion. They might need to win if they want to make the playoffs. So Toyota, I just mentioned their pit crews are in kind of a precarious situation. A couple other top drivers, same thing. Anyway, now before we go, I want to talk about Atlanta Motor Speedway, or Super Speedway as I'm jokingly calling it. You hear that part of the broadcast when Dale Jr. said he doesn't really count Atlanta among the super speedways? I don't know, I get it. The other super speedways are 2.5, 2.66 miles long. This is 1.5 miles, but boy, it races like a super speedway, and to me, that's what matters most. Anyway, I'm not here to critique Dale Jr.'s personal definition of things. I want to talk about the race we saw. It was a good super speedway race. Just like I said back in March, if you view Atlanta as a super speedway, you go into this race the same way you'd go into a Daytona or Talladega race, I think you had a good time with this one. I was critical of the spring race because we did wreck a lot of cars. I think they crashed like over 30 cars in that race. We couldn't have been too far off here today, but it definitely felt like less. Also, the spring race was 500 miles, was like 4 hours long. This one, I don't think it hit 3.5. It was over 3, but I don't think it got to 3.5. A little more digestible length. I think that helped the casual fan enjoy this race a little bit more. Look, I miss old Atlanta, and by old Atlanta, I mean Atlanta from like 10 years ago. I don't really miss the Atlanta from 2 years ago or 1 year ago. It was just so old. The pieces of the track were literally breaking during the race, causing red flags. Like, the track needed a repave, and as we've seen, if you repave 1.5 miles for 5-6 years, the racing's gonna suck. SMI, Marcus Smith took a risk. They said, we're not just gonna repave, we're gonna add banking, do the opposite of what we did at Texas, which ruined the track there. And I'd say it's worked. Their goal was to create a small super speedway, small style pack racing, and they've succeeded at that. This looked like a plate race. Drafting was everywhere, but to be fair, there was a lot of handling components in this race. It was hotter, slicker than it was in March, so you saw guys slipping and sliding. The first couple laps were wildly entertaining, seeing guys like Larson just twitch in traffic. That was exciting stuff. You don't get that at Daytona and Talladega very often, so maybe a little more handling came into play here than at your traditional super speedway, but still, it was a drafting track, 2 and 3 wide all night long. I still don't know exactly how I feel about it. On one hand, the schedule is now very diverse and very even. You've got 6 super speedways, you've got 6 road courses, we have 5 true short tracks, a dirt track. So on that hand, I kind of like that the schedule is kind of evenly mixed now with these special racetracks. But on the other hand, super speedways are the most random style of racing, and drivers aren't using every traditional skill they grew up learning to succeed there. Not a lot of off-throttle time, stuff like that. So I go back and forth on it. I certainly don't want to see more super speedways added, not anytime in the near future, even though the racing today was fun to watch. I don't want to see too much of it. There has to be a balance. I don't know. What do you guys think down in the comments below? Is Atlanta Super Speedway too much? Or do you welcome this change? Are you happy with the change after its first season of action? I think I gave that first Atlanta race in March like an 80%. Honestly, this one gets a very similar score. Again, if you view it as a super speedway, it was a pretty entertaining race. Lots of lead changes. There was not a huge bubble of air up front that prevented you from passing the leader. Like, Chase Elliott obviously had the best car, but he could get past. Like, Corey LaJoie went back and forth with him a couple of times in a Spire car. So passing was extremely prevalent. We saw comers, we saw goers. The one danger here is when there's a crash, it's hard to escape it because the track's a little narrower, and visibility is worse because it's such a tighter radius. You're basically looking at a wall of cars out the windshield. Hard to avoid crashes. There are criticisms to be had. I think this one gets another 80% though. I'm just gonna give it the same score as I did in March. I feel like it was just another typical, kind of fun, thrilling super speedway race. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Boy, I know we covered a lot of territory in this one. I'm starting to calm down a little. I'm working on my breathing. At least this race gave us a lot to talk about and a lot to debate. So I look forward to reading your comments on this one. That's gonna do it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We react to races like this every single week, but during the week we talk about news, we discuss rumors, give predictions, and much, much more. Also, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate your support every single month. It makes a huge difference and helps keep this show growing. We'll be back again later this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your weekend.